While the world watches Berlin, Brussels, and Paris, one of the most powerful transformations in Europe is quietly unfolding in Copenhagen. Denmark, a nation of just 6 million people, has made a $400 billion move that's already redrawing the balance of power across the EU. And the best part? No one saw it coming. This isn't about politics, protests, or defense. It's about energy dominance, digital infrastructure, and a silent strategy that's turning Denmark into the backbone of Europe's future. And almost nobody's talking about it. Welcome to Geo Capitalist, where we decode global wealth one power shift at a time. Subscribe if you're tracking how small nations are reshaping global economics with strategy, not size. Denmark is often underestimated. Tucked between Germany and Sweden, it's rarely the focus of headlines, but beneath that calm surface is a country that has mastered the economics of future-proofing. In 2025, Denmark's sovereign wealth fund, infrastructure banks, and private sector giants are orchestrating what amounts to a $400 billion bet on the future of Europe. This isn't just government spending, it's a public-private industrial strategy, stretching from offshore wind fields to AI data corridors. While larger nations struggle with bureaucratic stagnation, Denmark has quietly built a blueprint where agility, trust, and long-term planning converge. But here's the key. Denmark doesn't just invest reactively, it preempts the next wave of global needs. That's why you'll find Danish capital flowing into not only physical infrastructure, but also intellectual capital, biotech, green engineering, cybersecurity, quantum research. Instead of waiting for crises to dictate budgets, Copenhagen builds in anticipation, knowing that control over tomorrow's systems is worth far more than reacting to today's headlines. This is how a nation of just 6 million people has positioned itself as an indispensable node in the EU's future. And the EU can't ignore it because so much of its digital power, energy strategy, and green ambitions now run through Denmark's wires, ports, and turbines. In a continent defined by caution, Denmark is quietly making boldness look like common sense. So what does $400 billion buy you in Europe today? In Denmark's case, energy leadership, digital power, and regional control. Over $100 billion is tied to Ørsted's expansion of offshore wind, not just in Danish waters but across the North Sea, supplying countries like Germany, the Netherlands, and the UK. Then there's the multi-billion-dollar investment into energy islands, artificial hubs that centralize electricity generation, storage, and international transmission. On top of that, Denmark has become a digital infrastructure nexus, with massive undersea data cables like the Cobra cable and DKAIX linking Northern Europe's cloud, AI, and security systems. And finally, add in green hydrogen, carbon capture, shipping modernization. It's a network effect of hard assets. Quietly, Denmark is becoming the one nation every EU economy needs, but none can fully control. Now expand that vision. Denmark is also funneling capital into next-generation semiconductor research, partnering with Baltic and Nordic states on climate-resilient infrastructure, and leading pilot programs for autonomous shipping lanes and AI-regulated trade flows. These aren't experimental side projects, they're structural bets on where the world is going. In effect, Denmark is not just participating in the energy and data revolutions, it's building the roads others will drive on. As Europe faces existential challenges, energy security, digital sovereignty, and decarbonization, Denmark's $400 billion is no longer a national budget line, it's leverage. The kind of leverage that doesn't just shape alliances, it quietly dictates them. Here's where it gets strategic. Most countries build renewables for domestic consumption. Denmark? It's building an export empire. Its offshore wind capacity, among the highest per capita in the world, feeds into multi-country grids that tie Germany, Belgium, and even the UK to Danish generation systems. This means Copenhagen can influence pricing, flow, and grid stability beyond its borders. Add to that the plan for 2 man-made energy islands by 2033, and Denmark isn't just playing energy policy, it's becoming Europe's green switchboard. And if tensions rise over supply chains or emissions targets, Denmark holds a rare card: the ability to quietly redirect, slow, or prioritize who gets what power without a single drop of oil involved. But there's more. These power flows aren't just electrons, they're contracts, partnerships, and soft geopolitical commitments. With every megawatt exported through a Danish channel, a subtle dependency is formed. Germany's energy transition? It needs Denmark's grid. The Netherlands' climate goals? They depend on Danish stability. Even Britain, despite Brexit, is tied into this web. And behind the turbines, Denmark is digitizing the flow, integrating blockchain-based auditing and AI-enhanced load balancing that gives them real-time control over a growing slice of Europe's energy rhythm. In the 21st century, whoever controls the flow of clean energy controls the next phase of economic momentum. And Denmark? It's already flipping the switch. Most people forget that Denmark controls Maersk, the second largest container shipping company in the world. And this isn't just about cargo. In a post-pandemic world where supply chain control is geopolitical power, Maersk gives Denmark a strategic edge few small countries have ever held. As the EU debates autonomy from Chinese ports and U.S. logistics pressure, Maersk sits at the center with Danish maritime law, digital tracking systems, and new green shipping lanes setting the standard for global logistics. It's a sector that's easy to overlook until the moment it's not. And if Denmark chooses to align its shipping routes and port tech with specific partners or EU regulations, that becomes leverage, quiet, effective, and instantly monetizable. What makes this power even more unique is Denmark's seamless integration of shipping data into its national economic strategy. Maersk isn't just moving containers, it's feeding real-time data into Denmark's AI-based logistics hubs, which are now being used by the EU to model climate impact, carbon credits, and efficiency standards. In other words, Denmark isn't just controlling movement, it's shaping the metrics by which movement is judged. As the world races toward green shipping standards, Denmark is years ahead, testing methanol-fueled vessels and AI-powered port scheduling. This positions the country not just as a transporter, but as a rule setter. And the rules in global trade are worth more than the goods themselves. There's a reason why foreign companies and EU institutions trust Denmark as a partner for sensitive projects, reliability, and integrity. While other nations wrestle with scandals, instability, or volatile politics, Denmark offers what investors crave: legal predictability, low corruption, and social trust. This reputation has brought global data centers, renewable energy funds, and AI cloud services to Danish soil, even when cheaper labor or land was available elsewhere. This is soft power done right, by building a long-term environment where money, data, and projects feel safe. It's why countries like Germany and the Netherlands are willing to route infrastructure through Denmark, even if it costs more, because what they're buying is certainty. But this trust isn't accidental, it's engineered. Denmark's education system, civic engagement, and public transparency programs are built to reinforce confidence across borders. Its government doesn't just permit foreign projects, It co-designs governance frameworks that protect both investors and citizens. That's rare. And in today's fragmented Europe, where political polarization often derails cross-border deals, Denmark plays a unique role, the unshakable middleman. Even in digital policy, where privacy debates rage across the continent, Denmark has emerged as a bridge, trusted by both tech giants and regulators. That's not neutrality. That's strategic alignment. And in the 21st century, countries with global trust will outperform countries with just global trade. Denmark knows this, and it's monetizing credibility in ways most economies still underestimate. The European Union sees Denmark as a model state, small enough to adapt, rich enough to invest, and stable enough to lead. But this admiration is turning into dependency. The EU's 2030 climate targets rely heavily on Danish-generated power. Its AI and cloud data strategy is built on digital cables running through Danish territory. Even its cross-border tax and shipping reforms are shaped by Danish logistics data. The risk? If Denmark were to ever shift strategy, scale back exports, or face internal disruption, it would ripple across Europe's green and digital agenda. And yet, because Denmark is politically cooperative, the EU hasn't diversified away. It's a silent reliance that could become loud if circumstances shift. And Copenhagen knows it. The numbers don't lie. As of 2025, over 20% of the EU's North Sea wind strategy is contingent on Danish infrastructure and exports. Energy islands like Bornholm and the upcoming North Sea hub aren't just national projects, they're continental linchpins. In digital terms, Denmark serves as the transit point for petabytes of sensitive EU data daily, linking Germany's tech sector, Dutch finance, and Nordic cloud systems in one secure path. Even new green finance regulations are being tested on Danish soil before being rolled out to larger markets. Why? Because Denmark delivers quietly, efficiently, and without political friction. Brussels sees it as the low-risk incubator for policy, infrastructure, and tech, a pilot country for the future of the Union. But underneath that partnership lies a strategic imbalance. Denmark has more leverage than it lets on. Power is not about size, it's about what others must ask your permission for. You might wonder, why isn't this massive influence more widely discussed? One reason is optics. Denmark doesn't boast. It doesn't demand headlines, and it doesn't need to. While France debates politics and Germany wrestles with energy reversals, Denmark executes. This low-drama, high-performance model is part of its influence strategy. By staying out of controversy, Denmark gains quiet access to strategic partnerships without triggering nationalist backlash or media heat. The result? A country that's never in crisis, yet always at the center of critical infrastructure decisions. In an age where loud voices dominate news cycles, Denmark's silence is part of its power. But there's another reason. Much of Denmark's rise is deeply technical, buried in data cables, port protocols, logistics routes, and energy transmission schemes. It's not flashy, but it's foundational. The average citizen, even in the EU, has no idea that their Netflix stream, EV charge, or digital ID might be routed through Danish infrastructure. And that's by design. Denmark avoids ideological framing and partisan noise. Instead, it frames progress as service delivery, not sovereignty expansion. Behind closed doors, however, EU officials and CEOs are fully aware. They know that Denmark has created a zone of premium reliability, a country where you don't just get access, you get peace of mind. And this model is hard to replicate. It's not built on flashy investments or populist movements, but decades of institutional trust, world-class education, transparent law, and high civic engagement. It's unsexy, but it works. And in today's chaotic global climate, that might be the most valuable currency of all. Competence, delivered quietly, at scale. So what does all this mean for Europe? Denmark is emerging as the template for what the EU wants to be: green, digital, integrated, and self-sufficient. Its $400 billion investment arc isn't just about Denmark's future, it's about testing a new model for continental cooperation, where small nations can lead through strategy instead of scale. And if it succeeds, expect others, from Finland to Ireland, to follow. But it also raises a quiet question. How much influence should one country have just by doing everything right? That's the kind of soft power that doesn't spark fear, but quietly changes everything. What we're seeing is a form of 21st century leadership that doesn't require dominance. Denmark isn't issuing ultimatums or controlling headlines, it's setting standards. Through logistics efficiency, renewable energy mastery, and digital transparency, it's showing what a modern state can achieve when it aligns government, business, and citizen trust. For a fractured EU facing political tension, economic uncertainty, and climate deadlines, Denmark's cohesion offers a model that's hard to ignore. Already, Nordic collaboration is gaining ground in EU policymaking, from green hydrogen protocols to AI ethics and cybersecurity. Denmark's leadership style, rooted in trust and results, is seeping into Brussels' long-term vision. It's no longer about North versus South or big versus small. It's about who's solving problems efficiently. And Denmark, through quiet execution, is making itself indispensable to that mission. In the coming decade, the question won't just be, what's Denmark doing next? It will be, why aren't we doing it that way too? Because when a $400 billion national strategy works this flawlessly, it doesn't just shape outcomes, it rewrites expectations for what's possible in Europe. If you found this breakdown valuable, watch our next video. It connects directly to what's unfolding. And don't forget to subscribe. Your support helps us decode these global shifts without compromise. Let us know in the comments, is Denmark the real blueprint for Europe's future, or just the most efficient middleman? Either way, the world is watching. And there you have it. Denmark's $400 billion power, move the EU can't ignore. No one saw it coming. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.